So we're jumping in here with some Battletech hobby, some Battletech narrative, some Battletech Q&A. The influx of new Battletech players, new mech warriors. We've got to get these mech warriors up to speed and out on the field immediately. We've been exploring in the past couple of vlogs, pushing up the clan stuff, getting ready for the clan invasion. Well, the clan invasion's already happened. Jade Falcon leading the charge against these Desgra Inner Sphere mech warriors. But bringing that over from the narrative side, so many players coming in from other wargaming systems. Do I say Warhammer 40,000? Do I say other aspects? And I think this is a duality, a combination of two things, in my opinion. Not to hijack this vlog, because we've got to get these new mech warriors in the game. This understanding that we've got the Catalyst plastics out in the wild now. We've got the dedicated box sets, whether it's going to be clans or Inner Sphere, out in the wild. We've got 3D printing, and it's not suppressed, it's embraced, it's appreciated, it's supported by the Battletech community. So cranking out 3D printing. We've got the Iron Wind medals, we've got the classic miniatures, and this has really visibly boosted the Battletech community, where other players are looking and saying, I'm thinking about jumping into Battletech. Or, I could use a new miniature game to start painting up some new stuff. So from that perspective, a lot of Battletech players, new Battletech players, I won't say former 40K players, but 40K players coming over to the table. And I've seen this in my own little narrative, my own little ecosystem here, my own little meta. The perspective and the biggest challenge that I'm seeing is this idea of faction. This idea of faction in Battletech, where in Warhammer 40,000, you have your faction, you have your army, you have your alignment, and you collect that model range, and there might be some slight deviation, there might be some slight crossover with abilities, but or models that you can include. But even with that, it's very much like, here's the faction, here's the faction, here's the faction. And if you want to do another faction, that's a completely different army, playing it from that perspective. Battletech, one of the main questions I get is like, Fritz, I'm expanding my mechs out. What am I allowed to buy? What am I allowed to use in my lances, my lists? Or I'm thinking about jumping into, House Davian, and what can I buy? What can I not buy? You can buy and field any mech anywhere. If we're talking Inner Sphere, this idea in the narrative of the Star League, all these mechs were present at different times. And when the Star League collapsed and it became the Inner Sphere and the Great Houses, they literally took control of certain mech factories. They took control of certain mechs. And of course, as the wars continued on and factories were destroyed, new ones were brought online, some switched over. So you can play a Marauder in any of the houses. You can have 4 Marauders in your lance in any of the houses. Now, if we look through the tech manuals, and this is by no means like mandatory. Battletech is interesting in that you can play straight up meta and say, look, this is the most ruthless and efficient lance, and I'm going to play 4 of these. I mean, you can do that. Or you can go full narrative or anywhere in between. So we see this idea, House Kurita, Jenners are very, very popular. They have a significant, and this is in the lore, in the narrative, they have a significant number of Jenners. They have factories able to produce Jenners. So seeing multiple Jenners in an invasion lance or a Kurita strike force would not be out of the ordinary. Or if you were going in to face that, there's a good chance you'll engage Marauders and Jenners. But they exist in other houses also, and other houses utilize them. So when you go through and look at the machines and look at the tech manuals, and you say, wow, I like this, that can be in any house. That can be in any mercenary company, and even painted in any colors. It's very, very interesting where and this is a lore video for another time, certainly, there are the standard house colors for all of the great houses. We've got yellow, we've got blue, we've got red, we've got green. But within those great houses, there are subunits, there are regiments, there are different painted units that represent local customs, local worlds. Now, they're going to have the symbol, the house symbol, or they're going to have the squad markings, the lance markings, all of that. But again, you could be like, look, I love House Kurita. I love that representation, but do I really want all red mechs? Well, some can be red. Some can also be any colors that you want. You could even do camouflage, kind of gray and black. But just make sure you've got that red dragon on the shoulder. Putting that out from that perspective. So the main thing, the first thing, set yourself free. No factions. No, you can't have these toys. No, you're not allowed to play with these toys. If you like it, you got to pay the battle value or the tonnage or the C-bills, whatever you're using in that ecosystem to balance out the game. But certainly any of the houses can play anything. Any of the mercenary companies can play anything. And we can utilize from that perspective. And just briefly jumping into the clans. Briefly. And we're going to certainly get into more of the clans. We had a couple of vlogs that I pushed up this morning, earlier, looking at the clans. I'm trying to balance that out. I'm trying to do like the clan auto-include mechs and then the Fritz favorites. And some of the Fritz favorites have the hotness and they've got the spice. And some of them, they're fun to play. Let's just leave it at that. Not the most well-designed clan mechs. But as we roll those out, you're going to see a similar thing with the clans. In that, yes, they are very, very regimented. And they're locked into the clan mythology. And certain mechs were literally developed and created by certain clans. But depending on the timeline, and you can always come up with something in the narrative, all the clans have access to all the clan mechs. Now, some are going to exclusively play certain ones because that's their mythology, linked to their clan representation. But you could easily cook something up where you've got these mechs because Trial of Possession, you won for this star or these 4 mechs, and now they're in your collection. Now they're physically in with your toys, and that would be completely playable. And then there's clans clans always act with honor. Clans borrowed some tech from another clan through various methods and engineered it, and now they have their own version of that mech. So Battletech is very, very fluid. And I appreciate that design as a miniature collector, as a wargamer, as someone that likes to experiment, because coming from 40K, what's not going to happen is you're not going to invest in miniatures that things are going to change and now they're completely useless. Or you're not going to invest in taking your collection, your lance in a certain way, and then you suddenly decide, wow, I'd like to try this. But in doing so, you have to start a whole new army faction, and all that other stuff is essentially just sitting on your gaming shelf. No, Battletech, 100% usable 100% of the time. And you can mix and match, and you can do these combinations. You can live in the lore and enforce it, but there's also ways to break out of the lore and still be within that lore.